In 16, we have a time of need, and the word time there, time of need, is actually the word seasons in the Greek. And I think what the author's trying to say is we're going to go through seasons of need. How many of you realize that seasons don't last forever? So seasons come and go. So sometimes I'm going to be in a season of need, and sometimes I'm not going to be in a season of need. And then I'm going to go back into a season of need. Need what? I don't know, whatever it is you're weak in. And I don't know for you, and you don't know for me, but need's not a problem. Need doesn't mean you're not favored. Need doesn't mean God's not moving. Need means you have a need. Thank God you have grace. Yeah. Let's embrace what God's grace is for. Areas of our weakness. In reality, when we own these weaknesses, not only do we qualify ourselves for God's grace, but we also qualify ourselves in the ears of the people that need the gospel the most. Because by embracing our weaknesses, we bring to that individual scenario not someone who has no issues, but someone who has issues and who is still functioning in the grace of God. And to me, the ultimate way to express the gospel is not through a bunch of people who have it all figured out, but through a people who realize they don't have it figured out and who embrace grace for those areas. And that gives us a quality to be able to evangelize in a way that we haven't had before. So now flip the page, you're in chapter 4, and then you roll into chapter 5. When the author of Hebrews wrote this, he didn't break it into chapters. He just kept right on plowing into the thought. And so with all of that in mind, look at 5:1. Every high priest taken from among men is appointed for men in things pertaining to God, that he may offer both gifts and sacrifices for sins. He can have compassion on those who are ignorant and going astray, since he himself is also subject to weakness. Because of this, he's required, as for the people, so also for himself, to offer sacrifices for sins. And no man takes this honor to himself, but he who is called by God, just as Aaron was. Now, I want to stop here for a second. I want to show you that the author of Hebrews just painted himself into a theological corner. I don't know if you caught it. Here was his statement. Every high priest taken from among men is appointed, and he knows how you feel because he's weak. And he has to offer up his own sacrifices for his own weaknesses. And that makes him compassionate because he has problems. He understands that you have problems. Can you see how he's painted himself into a corner? Because he's about to introduce to you that Jesus is your new high priest, but he just told you Jesus sympathized with your weaknesses yet without sin. So painting himself into the corner is that Jesus doesn't need to offer a sin sacrifice for himself because he didn't do anything wrong. So if he doesn't need to offer a sin sacrifice for himself, then how in the world is he possibly going to understand when you fail? Because he doesn't fail. So this is an interesting moment that happens in the book of Hebrews where the author walks us, and by painting himself in the corner, I don't mean accidentally. I believe he knows where he's going. But boy, it sure does feel as you lay these verses out that he goes, now where are you going to go with Jesus on this? Because you just told me that a natural priest needs to offer up a lamb for himself. But you also told me before that Jesus never sinned. So what in the world is he going to do that's going to make me identify with him? And the twist is that it won't be about him doing something so that you can identify with him. It's going to be about him taking on something so that he can identify with you. And the twist happens in verse 5. Christ did not glorify himself to become high priest, but it was he who said to him, "You're my son, today have I begotten you." He also says in another place, "You're a priest forever, according to the order of Melchizedek, who in the days of his flesh," that's when he was Jesus. And when he was Jesus, I mean when he was on the earth. Because the New Testament likes to call him Christ after he's resurrected. It likes to call him Jesus before he's resurrected. It's trying to differentiate between Jesus in the natural and Christ the resurrected man. How many of you realize that you have Christ the resurrected man, not Jesus in the natural? Right. Jesus in the natural teaches you some stuff. What will he teach you? How to act in the natural. You need Jesus in the natural. Jesus in the natural shows you what to do in a natural world. You really need Christ in the spirit. Because Christ in the Spirit show you how to be a resurrected man. That's our third day word from last night. He put the seed who his Father is inside you and go, no, we can be better than the natural. The natural is a set of principles, but the Christ is a way to live. All right? That's transformation.